Okay, so the second part of deception. So last week, you watched Spotlight and you looked at the ways that information was withheld from us. So we don't have all of the information to make full decisions about our lives. Another thing that's happening now that there's always been fake news, but because of the internet, it's exploding in a whole new way, is active actual deception. And oh, that's my kitty. How cute. So what I want you to get out of this one is define, explain, and give examples of fake news, and identify and explain the 4 key elements of fake news. So fake news, the proper definition, is a story that's presented as news that is intentionally false. Now I want you to get this point. So fake news is when someone intentionally has made up a story that they know is not true in order to make money or make political gain. Okay, so just to clarify, it's spread with the aim, the actual aim to misinform. So not about bias or social construction or accidental misreporting. So let's say a story has a bias against someone, and you say, well, that's fake news. No, that's not fake news, that's bias news, right? Fake news is when actual facts are made up, when things that did not happen are made up, and the person who makes them up knows they're making them up. And this is a thing, this is why I wanted you to listen to the NPR story, and this is why I'm going to want you to watch this Vice video right now, if you haven't already. Okay, so there's always been sort of fake news stories, even back in the 1600s, posted in newspapers, but because of the internet, there's a heightened degree and amount than ever before, right? So Pope Francis backs Trump for president. This is intentionally false. The Pope never did that. The goal is to convince people that the Pope did that. The person who wrote that is making money on the number of clicks or ways that this is spread. Right, fake news was the word of the year in 2017. False, often sensational information disseminated under the guise of news. So more and more often, people just, all you have to do is create something that looks like a news site and write stories that look like news stories. And because of the way that the newspaper has shifted, because the way that we get our news has shifted, this is sort of worse than ever. So let me give you a quick example about the difference. So let's see, in the fall, there's the idea about, so remember the whole thing, the Ukraine scandal. Do we even remember that anymore? There's a fucking Ukraine scandal. The president of the United States got impeached, which means he was tried and was then not found guilty, or at least not kicked out of office by the Senate. And now we forgot that because we have coronavirus. But at the time, there was the notion that Biden's son was inappropriately doing something in Ukraine. Of course, coming from a family where they all work for each other. But then they made up a story that Pelosi's son was an executive of a company that did business in Ukraine as well. So report, Nancy Pelosi's son was an executive of a gas company in Ukraine. This isn't even like an opinion. This isn't like, so we know that Biden's son did something in Ukraine, it probably wasn't bad. That's an opinion, or it was bad, that's an opinion. But it is fundamentally out and out not true that Nancy Pelosi's son did any business in Ukraine, right? It's a story that was made up just to get people to click on this, right? And look at it, it was like if you look, breaking story, nationalfile.com, redstate.com, 247sports.com, abovetopsecret.com, they all cite each other for this story. This is a made up story. It's not an opinion about right or wrong. It literally didn't happen. Right, okay, there we go. Keeps going. Was the son, according to Snopes and everything else, this is untrue. Right, okay, but then this one, so then I saw this one, and it was dirty of Elizabeth Warren. It said, Zuckerberg just endorsed Donald Trump. Now, the headline is fake news because he didn't. But if you look close, they'll say, how could this be true? Well, it's not true, but what he has done is given him a podium, right? So they sort of lied in the headline to get you to click on the story, and then when you read it more closely, you realize they're saying no, it's not true, but it feels like it's true because of the way Facebook is set up, right? That's bad news. That's biased information. That's bad reporting or manipulative, but that's not fake news. Fake news would be if they carried it through and say, yes, that he did endorse him and it happened on such and such date, right? But it can function like fake news because at a glance, you may not read the story. So this is bias, this is clickbait, this is misleading, but it's not the same as making up the story. Okay, so now stop right now and go watch this video if you haven't already. I want us to have a common set of facts, since they're impossible to find. And I want you to hear who made up the story about Pizzagate and why he does it and what he gets out of it. And also with that NPR story of how these stories circulate. So go do that now and come back.